Imagine pushing yourself so hard, so far past your normal limits, that you actually brush right up against death itself. Well, today we are unpacking a deeply fascinating, incredibly intense 2018 autobiographical essay by Zhu Feng titled Live to the Extreme, Exert to the Extreme. Let's dive right in, because this isn't just your standard essay, it's a profound exploration of human endurance. We're going to look at how a terrifying, visceral, near-death experience fundamentally shaped an entire philosophical worldview. And I promise you, the story that kicks this whole thing off is absolutely unforgettable.
Just listen to this quote for a second. Zhu Feng writes, "Feel whether you are dead. There is still a chance to dance a tango on the edge of death." He's describing a pitch-black night right after a trip to Lac La Hache Park. He and his companion, Yi Huang, had picked some wild mushrooms. Now, they didn't dare serve them to their guests, so they decided to eat them themselves. And at 2:30 in the morning, a violent toxic reaction kicked in. They were literally dancing that tango on the edge of death.
Section 1. The Edge of Death. That terrifying night became the ultimate catalyst. It completely reframed his outlook on what it actually means to survive. So let's walk through the sheer, insane pragmatism of this timeline. First, obviously, they eat the toxic mushrooms. Then things get, well, radically practical. Realizing that a trip to the hospital would mean unaffordable medical fees, they make the conscious, heavy choice to simply accept possible death rather than call an ambulance. Step 3. They force down massive amounts of salt water to induce vomiting and purge the toxins. And then, by some miracle, at 4:30 a.m., the ordeal passes. They survived. And what does Zhu Feng do? He is completely exhausted, but he skips going back to sleep just so he can go make breakfast for their guests. To him, losing a few hours of sleep was absolutely nothing compared to losing his life.
Surviving mushroom poisoning at age 60? It flips a switch in your brain. It gave him this profound, overwhelming gratitude for just basic human functions. In the text, he actually compares his reality to brutal survival movies like Hacksaw Ridge. He looks at his own life and realizes, hey, I have food. I have shelter, I have eyes, legs, hands. He just feels incredibly fortunate. And because of that, he concludes that since he didn't die that night, the rest of his borrowed time must be used selflessly for the benefit of the world.
Section 2. Defining the extreme. That realization naturally led him to a much deeper question. What does it actually mean to push human nature to its absolute limit? To define this, Zhu Feng looks at a really famous benchmark, the West Point Military Academy's renowned beast training. We're talking about a cruel, rigorous, physical, psychological, and intellectual gauntlet where a full fifth of elite students just wash out. Those who pass are seen as pushing human nature to the extreme, but contrast that with Zhu Feng's definition of living to the extreme. For him, it's not just about military grit. It's about wholehearted, completely selfless exertion for the benefit of the world, achieved specifically through immense, unavoidable hardship.
Section 3. Auditing a Life. Armed with this rigorous new standard, Zhu Feng basically puts his own past under a microscope to see if he ever truly lived up to his own extreme standards. At age 18, he was a village party secretary managing the affairs of 11 different villages. That sounds pretty impressive, right? Well, actually scratch that. He brutally dismisses his entire life up to age 35 as muddle-headed and completely mediocre. He argues he wasted precious time just living in comfort. It's not until age 36, working as an interpreter in Zimbabwe with 0 days off and 10-hour workdays, that his life started to gain some real color. And by age 38, he dives headfirst into intense entrepreneurship.
The crucial point here is how he views hardship. During that time in Zimbabwe, he experienced what he considers his first real taste of that West Point-style beast training. He describes this thrilling, utterly life-risking 80-kilometer drive right through the African jungle at night. There was no moonlight at all. He was in a broken Jeep with no headlights, no roof, a steering wheel with massive free play, and a totally shot drive shaft. If that car stalled, it couldn't even be restarted without a push. It was purely risking his life in the dark, and he points to this exact moment as true extremity. Then came those entrepreneurial years. To squeeze every single ounce of productivity out of his day, he strictly limited his sleep to a maximum of just 5 hours a night. During this intense grind, he was running 4 shops, a nightclub, a bar, and a fast food restaurant, all simultaneously. His time management was ruthless. Meals were limited to literally 5 or 6 minutes. His daily output averaged handling 9 major tasks every single day. He squeezed every drop of efficiency out of his life. But amazingly, when auditing this whole period, he still concluded that he hadn't reached the extreme. He felt he could have done even more.
Even later in his life, he spent over 10 years obsessively writing the Chuanyuan and Shui Feng corpus. We are talking about tens of millions of words written day and night, barely sleeping, never entertaining himself. Yet his conclusion remains exactly the same. It was not extreme enough. Why? Simply because his basic needs, food, clothing, shelter, transportation, were safely met. There was no true suffering, no great tribulation. And in his philosophy, without that, it just doesn't count as the extreme.
Section 4, Losing It All.
And this brings us to the dramatic climax of Xu Feng's narrative, where he and his community finally face the ultimate test of their resilience. For 10 years, Xu Feng and his community, known as the Chanyan Celestials, built 9 picturesque homes in what they called the New Oasis for Life. But then, disaster struck. According to Xu Feng, due to government misunderstanding and misinterpretation of their community, they lost everything. 26 million in funds just vanished. They were driven out of their 9 beautiful homes. Over 150 people were suddenly left as vagrants. No houses, no food, no daily supplies, out on the street. But what is truly fascinating is how they responded to this catastrophe. In the face of total ruin, they didn't complain about heaven, earth, or the government. They didn't petition, they didn't raise banners, whine, protest, march, or rebel. They flat out refused to do anything that would harm others, society, or nature, and they completely rejected sinking into negative, pessimistic emotions. I mean, this is radical acceptance in action.
Instead, they just licked their wounds. They survived miraculously. And not only did they survive, but they lived very happily. And it was right here, in this joyful survival amid absolute, total devastation, that Xu Feng realized they had finally satisfied his criteria. Having nothing, yet surviving with joy, this, at long last, was achieving the true extreme of human nature.
Section 5, Way of the Grass.
Xu Feng synthesizes all this chaotic, painful journey into one enduring natural metaphor. He quotes this beautiful poem. Boundless grasses across the plain come and go with every season. Wildfires never quite consume them. They are tall once more in the spring wind. Xu Feng explains that even if that spring wind doesn't blow, even if all that blows is a bitter, freezing winter storm, the wild grass will not die. Why? Because grass lives to its extreme. It exerts itself to its absolute limit to survive.
This metaphor perfectly defines what Xu Feng calls a Chuanyuan celestial. It is a person who is basically like that unbreakable grass. It's someone who can lose all material security, absolutely everything they own, but still fiercely loves life. They serve selflessly, they tolerate everything, and they act as a guiding light. In Xu Feng's worldview, it's only these people, the ones who have gone through severe, life-shattering hardship and survived with a strong, loving heart, who are actually qualified to lead mankind.
And that brings us to his ultimate political and philosophical vision. He envisions a Xu Feng-style communist society. But rather than being built on some top-down policy, it is built entirely by these specific individuals, people who act as their own shining lights, who hold the banner of a new era and who live and exert themselves to the absolute extreme without hesitation or retreat, no matter what they face.
We've seen a man survive a toxic brush with death, relentlessly audit his own life for weakness, and ultimately find total clarity in the ashes of his destroyed community. So I want to leave you with this question. If everything you built was swept away tomorrow, would you have the strength to be the grass in the winter wind? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep pushing your limits, and I'll see you next time.